Hey, welcome to the show. I don't know why I thought you were going to start it. We've done like 150 of these, and I've started every one. Welcome to the show, buddy. We're live. It is Scott and Scott with our weekly college football preview show. We're headed back to school. Scott, you want to go back to school?
Yeah, maybe for a party or two, but I don't know if I'd want to go to any classes.
Not going to pursue that master's.
To be fair, I overslept most of the classes anyway, so.
Very good. Very good. Hey, it's good to be here, guys. We're going to take a look, as we always do, at the matchups in the top 25 for college football. And of course, at the end of the show, we'll be dropping the world famous. Is it world famous by now, you think?
It should be. And maybe, I think it might be in North America. I don't know about South America yet.
That's fair. That's fair. We're conquering the world one hemisphere at a time, guys. So stay tuned for the Bet the Farm play. We'll talk about last week's play and unveil our favorite play this week. Scott, how's your week gone so far?
I can't complain. I had a fun time watching the Army game last night. I had the over, so it worked out pretty well for me. Can't complain, though. Been a pretty good week. You?
Yeah, the Army game was good to me, too. I had the side as a premium, minus 13.5, cha-ching, and I also had the over as my free video play. So that one, a little sweat there, Scott. 14-0 at halftime. Thought we needed to get something going, but my prediction came absolutely true. Army started clearing the bench late in the second half, and it was enough to let Temple score a couple of touchdowns. So, yeah, worked out fine. Oh, what do we got in the comment? I bought two plays, experts, both selling the same play. Well, that's because that's their favorite play, John. That's all I can say. Everybody gives their best play of the day, and sometimes those are the same plays. David Good's ready? Excellent, David. We're ready as well. Thanks for the Army Temple over. Yes, sir. Absolutely. And Joan is in the house, as Joan almost always is. Good to see a bunch of the regs back. Scott, we got 10 live viewers already. Let's kick this thing off. What do you say, buddy? You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, we're going to start with a game that's going to happen tonight, my friend, as the Miami Hurricanes. That name becomes a lot less clever when
there's an actual hurricane.
Yes, there's an actual hurricane decimating your state. By the way, I know there's a lot of people that are in those areas. A shout out and prayers to all of you guys. I know there's been 20 fatalities so far as this thing rolls on. So stay battened down. I know one of our cappers, Chris King, texted me early today. He hasn't had power or internet since early this morning, like 3, 4 a.m. So everybody stay cool out there, stay calm, and let's all get through this. So having said that, we'll talk about this game. Miami is 18.5 point favorites. 55.5 is your number. Scott, this Hurricanes team, we have to do it because, we get a lot of things wrong. So we have to pat ourselves on the back every week for picking Miami to win the ACC. And they have been absolutely rolling so far. Played 3 FBS teams, and they have outscored them 153-32. The Hokies, I don't believe in that defense at all. They gave up 34 to Vandy, 26 to Rutgers. The Knights have 3 very good wide receivers. They should put in some points on the board. But this Miami offense has been a machine so far. Miami gets after the quarterback like nobody's business. And Tech, well, they give up a lot of sacks. Drones has already been sacked 8 times this season. I don't see it getting any better. I like the over here, buddy. I think Miami does most of the heavy lifting, but I think Tech does enough, especially late. What say you?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to go with Miami in this one. I think Virginia Tech is just simply put not very good. Saw them lose to Rutgers. That was actually a home game. They lost that one anyway. Point is, Drones has really not worked out that well with this offense, and we saw them lose to Vandy in the first game in overtime. Saw them beat Marshall and beat Old Dominion. Congrats, I guess. And lost to Rutgers at home. So Miami's been killing a bunch of teams. They score a bunch of points. We think that Cam Ward might end up winning the Heisman, so we'll see what happens there. But Miami just has too much talent as far as I'm concerned. And I do think that it is worth mentioning, despite the hurricane in the area, the weather should be fine for this game. Yep. So I don't exactly expect a monsoon, which might, of course, result in a lower scoring game. I don't see that. I think Miami rolls at home here. Virginia Tech, you said before, the offensive line's not great. I don't think that they have a lot of, I'd say, threats on the offensive side of the ball. Drones is mobile, but do you like their weapons? Not really. I think it's fine, I guess, but Miami's just better in pretty much every position. I think Miami should win by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't hate that either. Let's take a look at the number 6 Ole Miss Rebels as they entertain the Kentucky Wildcats. We've got this number at ooh, what do we
My bad.
got? Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I went in order. What are you in?
I am in the order. I'm not. I clicked the one above it, but it's fine. It's all
All
good.
right. It's gonna be we're gonna keep you on your toes today, brother. Where we at this line? We have it at 16. Oh, that's definitely down. A little Kentucky money coming in there, brother. I had this at 17.5 earlier in the week. 52.5, and the total has stayed where it is. You know, the everybody talks about this Ole Miss offense, and they are a powerhouse, third best in the nation. But nobody talks about their defense, Scott. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this game?
Yes, Ole Miss's defense pretty good. In fact, they've only allowed a touchdown in one game so far this season, so they've been very good. Problem is they haven't played anybody worth a damn out of all four opponents combined. Beat Georgia Southern, who I guess was one of the better teams that they faced. Once again, a low bar, 152-13. Beat Wake 40-6. Beat Middle Tennessee, who's not very good, and beat Furman, who they destroyed 76-0. FCS opponent. Now, Kentucky, we saw give Georgia a run for their money. The defense is very good. The offense has gotten better recently. They killed Ohio last week. Ohio was using a backup quarterback, but still scored 41 points, so still a good showing there. I'm taking the points. I think it's too many. I know the argument is Ole Miss offensively can put up 40 on anybody. I think Kentucky's defense is really good, and I think the offense is good enough to keep the game somewhat competitive. But Ole Miss hasn't played anybody. I feel like it's really difficult to assume Ole Miss is, I'd say, a top 4 team in the country with this strength of schedule. I just have a hard time fully trusting this team to win by margin in conference play when they haven't played anybody worth a damn yet. I think we'd agree out of all 4 teams they faced off, of course, there's one FCS team so disqualified. Do any of those teams make a bowl game? Georgia Southern, Wake Forest, and Middle Tennessee? Probably not.
No, Georgia Southern would be your only shot there.
So I am not going to really overreact to how they've played. I think Kentucky, with them giving Georgia a run for their money, they held the offense in check. Good enough for me. Give me Kentucky to lose this game by like 13.
You know, I'm I'm having a hard time getting a read on both of these teams. Like say, Ole Miss hasn't played anybody, and Kentucky is a psycho team. I watched that game against South Carolina. They look like the worst team, not just in FBS, maybe in FCS as well. Just absolutely dreadful blown coverages. They did tighten it up. As you mentioned, they kept it close against Georgia, but they didn't score a touchdown against Georgia, Scott. And I think this Ole Miss defense, well, it may not be in the category of the dogs. I think they are still very, very good. They haven't been challenged on defense yet. May take a second to adjust and get it going. I like the under 52.5 here with, that's right. That's right. With one of the highest scoring teams in the country, a team averaging almost that many points by themselves. I'm going out on a limb and playing the under. I've got Michigan next.
Sure.
There
you go in order. I'll just click whichever one you say. That's fine.
All right. All right. This line has climbed a little bit. Don't love that move at all, as we have Michigan, who is currently ranked 12th in the country, entertaining the Golden Gophers there. Yeah. 36.5, Scott. 36.5 is your 1984 NFL total in this game. You know, this has been a pretty lopsided series. And Scott, in the first quiz of many that we'll do as they start playing for these games, what's the prize in this one as the Michigan, Minnesota? What are they playing for?
It's a great question. Clean water? I don't know.
Hey, very nice. They are playing for the little brown jug, my friend. The little brown
I was close.
jug.
You got to put some liquid in the jug.
That's right. You can put your water in the jug. There's nothing wrong with that. Since 1987, Scott, how many times has Minnesota taken home the little brown jug?
Since what year?
1987, 37 years ago.
I'm going to say 2.
2 is correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. Ding,
All right,
ding,
cool.
ding. Hasn't happened since 2014. This is a bad matchup schematically for the Gophers. They play the pass pretty well, but Michigan ain't worried about passing the ball. And that Iowa run game absolutely gashed them. 272 yards, 4 touchdowns, 45 carries, over 6 yards per tote. Minnesota, they're a team that wants to run the ball, keep the clock moving, limit possessions, and give the opposing offense less opportunities. Guess what? That's the game Michigan likes to play, and they do it way better. Yeah, you know what? Woody Marks for USC snapped off a 65-yarder against the Wolverines. But other than that, they gave up just 31 yards on 20 carries when you factor in sack yardage. Michigan's 10th in rush yards allowed 20th in yards per carry. I think this goes one way. I think this is like stealing money here, buddy. I know. I have a love-hate relationship with this Michigan team. I'm on them again. Give me Michigan minus 10.5.
Yes, I was actually right about Michigan last week. I picked them against USC. I thought the line was a bit trappy, and they couldn't complete a forward pass, but they won the game. So I guess that counts for something. But I think I like Michigan in the under. I know it's going to sound like threading a series and needle there. I'm not sure Minnesota gets to 10 points. I don't think Brosmer's that good, and I feel like I don't know if they got exposed by Iowa, but they scored no points in the second half.
Right.
I also want to give a shout-out to the random person on Twitter. I commented in the first half that Minnesota's not beating Iowa with Brosmer at quarterback. Deal with it. And they scored 2 touchdowns in about 5 minutes. And somebody commented with the tagging of freezing cold takes. They tried to tag them in for my take. And then Minnesota never scored again, and they lost by like 20. And I'm like, yeah, good call. Good call over there. So point is, shout out to that guy who made basically an ass of himself for about an hour, give or take. Point is, I don't think Minnesota's that good. Defensively, they're fine. They got killed on the ground, though, and I think that Michigan's going to only want to run the ball. Besides, Iowa has 1 good running back. Michigan, I believe, has 2. So I think you're going to have a hard time for Minnesota trying to stop the run here. But Michigan, I think Orgy might throw a couple more passes, but nothing substantial. They won. No reason to reinvent the wheel. Run the ball, drain clock. Unless they break a couple massive runs, you're looking at maybe a 9-play drive, all handoff, 7 minutes off the clock. Just keep the clock running. Give me Michigan to win this game like 20-7. Give me the under and give me Michigan winning by double digits.
There you go. Yeah, Orgy threw just 12 times versus USC. And
about 11 too many.
Yeah, still got the win. All right, let's talk about my Wildcats, Scott. Battered but not bruised but not battered here, as they're back in the friendly confines to host Oklahoma State. The Wildcats 4.5-point favorites. Total in this game 57.5. What do you got here?
I'm letting you go first because this is one of your favorite teams, and they didn't look too good in Provo.
I'll tell you, that was a weird game. We watched that game, of course, and first of all, these two teams, they are pretty much the polar opposites of what they want to do on offense. Oklahoma State's 15th in passing, 115th in rushing. Kansas State 117th in passing, 16th in rushing. But you know what? Mike Gundy knows that passing the ball is not ultimately going to be his path to success. I think he wants to get Ollie Gordon going right here, Scott. And that was a weird game because K-State, what did they lose at 38-9, something like that?
I think so. I mean, the game was a rock fight early, and then BYU kind of exploded in the second half.
But here's the deal: K-State outrushed them by almost 180 yards. They threw. And BYU had just 10 more yards passing, but 3 turnovers for K-State and one of the most ridiculous punt returns you will ever see in your life. Pretty much doomed them. They couldn't get out of their own way. But I think this OSU team is going to give them all they want. I think K-State may get a narrow victory in here. I'm going to take the pokes and the points. Give me Oklahoma State, and what do we have it at? 4.5 still? 5?
I have 5 on the board, but it's one of those.
I'll take the 5.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky because do you think Ollie Gordon regrets coming back to college with him averaging 3.5 yards per carry?
Oh, I think he does. He certainly does so far. We'll see how the season ends, but yeah, I think he pretty much reserves time to kick himself every single day.
Yeah, same thing with Chuba when he was with Oklahoma State. He came back from an extra year, didn't exactly go too well. I think Bowman's been pretty good this season, which has been a bit of a surprise. They lost to Utah on a backup quarterback. I know Rising was expected to play. He didn't play in the end. They lost anyway. The game wasn't as close as the score suggested. They were down double digits for most of the game. They scored a couple times late to make it somewhat competitive, or I should say respectable, at the end on the scoreboard, but they were down for pretty much the entire game. Now, for this one, I think I agree with you. This really just screams one possession war to me. I know that I'd say Kansas State fans were kind of celebrating the departure of Will Howard and why they were willing to let Avery Johnson take over. I don't think he's very good, at least throwing the ball. I'm going to ask you because I know mobility can be there. He really doesn't impress you as a pocket passer, does he?
No, absolutely not. I think he may be the best running quarterback in the nation and one of the worst throwing the football. I'll
put Milroe above him as rushing, but
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I know you could probably reel off 3 or 4 that aren't coming.
He's top 5 in rushing, but when it comes to throwing, I have a hard time backing a team to win by at least 5 points. when your quarterback has a hard time actually throwing the ball downfield. So
Yep.
I'll go with Oklahoma State. The defense has been fine. I know Utah, once again, is using a backup quarterback, but Utah, we also picked to win the conference, and we thought they'd make the playoff. I'm not going to roast them too hard, losing by 3 to that team. I think they bounce back. I think Kansas State might win at home. This might come down to like a missed field goal in the last minute.
Yep.
I think Kansas State might win, but by like 3. I really see just a full one-possession war. Last team with the ball trying to drive downfield. Maybe they get there, maybe they don't. But I'll take the points.
Yeah, that's the play for me too. I think this total may be a little too high. I think we're going to see a lot of running the football in this one. I think 57.5 is a beatable number, taking the under there.
I'm with you.
Let's talk about BYU making their first appearance in the top 25 after that beatdown of K-State last week, ranked 22nd. They go and travel down there to Waco, Texas, take on the Baylor Bears. Baylor Bears, Scott, I've got it at 3. Okay, I had 3.5, so let's come down a little bit. And the total on that is State at 46.5. Tell us about the Battle of the Bees here.
So the more that the years pass, the more that I have to wonder, how the hell did Baylor win a conference title with Dave Aranda? How'd they pull that off? I don't know. Point is, though, Baylor had a phenomenal choke job against Colorado. It was a great play by Shedeur. And then again, they almost gave up back-to-back Hail Marys because Shepard dropped the pass right before it, and then you gave up the Hail Mary right after. It was an embarrassing loss by Baylor. Like, that's a fireable offense, but of course they're not going to fire mid-season. It's a rule. We've talked about this rule in college football and college basketball, all college sports. If the ranked team is an underdog against the unranked team, I'm taking the unranked team. It's just a rule. I've constantly used it. It's worked very well over the years. Unfortunately, don't have updated numbers on the stat, but historically, source, trust me, bro, the unranked team tends to beat the ranked team. That's usually how it goes if the unranked team's favored. I'm going to go with Baylor. Shout out to BYU, though. Their best player is their Jewish quarterback in a Mormon university, which I find pretty funny. Point is, though, I am going to go with Baylor, a -3. I think it mostly comes down to the trenches. They ran the ball very well against Colorado. I can see them dominating up front. BYU had a great win in Provo. We know that they tend to pull off those type of upsets at least once a year in Provo. On the road, not so much. I'm going to lean to Baylor and Waco. I think it's a good bounce-back spot for them. Mostly up front. I just think they're going to be able to run the ball. BYU, you said in that Kansas State game, did give up a decent amount of rushing yards. They just were able to capitalize on special teams and Johnson not being able to throw. So I'll go with Baylor -3. It's a system play. Give me the unranked team beating the ranked team.
All right, I'm fading your system. I just don't think this Bears team is any good, man.
I don't think the line makes any sense too, so it's also very trappy. So it kind of goes with that too.
Well, and yeah, I don't disagree with that. You know, I don't. They've got no impressive wins so far. They've got a win over Air Force. They've got a win over Wyoming. Neither one of those are impressive. Losing at Colorado, like you said, that's a very bad look. I think this BYU team rolling with a little momentum. I'll fight your system, buddy. I'll fight your system. I'll take BYU and the 3.5 in this one. And you know, Scott, as long as they have the Jewish quarterback there, their conversion rate will never be 100%. So
you know, they're almost in time for the new year, so keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
That's a Rosh Hashanah joke for people at home.
Little Rosh Hashanah humor for everybody. Let's take a little look here. Yep. Thank you, David. We appreciate it. I know David's I don't know if he's retired or not, but I know he was a professor out there in Arizona. I've talked to David a little bit. Good dude, and a very regular viewer. So thanks for being here for us, buddy. Here's our first one. Is it our first one between ranked teams?
I think so.
Number 15, Louisville travels to number 16, Notre Dame up there in South Bend. Take on the Fighting Irish. I've got this one at 6.5, and your total is 46.5. Revenge spot for the Golden Domers, Scott. They lost to the Cards last year, 33-20 down there in Louisville. The most impressive thing about this Cardinals offense, not only is it very efficient, haven't turned the ball over yet. Another fun stat for you. This is the 5th meeting between these two teams. They've split the first 4, going 2-2. But Louisville, 4-0 ATS. They have never not failed to cover against this Notre Dame team. Tyler Shaw is another one of these guys. It seems like he has been around forever. Is in his 6th year of football. Spent 2 years at Oregon. Spent 3 at Texas Tech, and now he's starting for the Cardinals. He is having a fantastic season so far. Scott, 850 yards, 68.4 completion percentage, 8 TDs, as we mentioned before, 0 interception. And Louisville defense, don't sleep on them, buddy. They haven't given up 20 points yet this season. I'll take the Cardinals. I don't know if I'm calling for the outright win, but I'll take them with the 6.5, and I will keep my eagle eyes peeled for a 7 if we can get it before game time.
Yeah, I'll just keep going back to my usual thing with Notre Dame. Give me the under.
Okay.
You said don't disrespect this Louisville defense. I'm not. I think it's a good unit, but looking at Notre Dame's offense, Riley Leonard not great. Let's put it that way. Now we saw them lose to, of course, a MAC team in Northern Illinois. Shout out to them, by the way. Lost to Buffalo, so congratulations to Notre Dame on that one. Point is though, we saw them beat Miami, Ohio last week, 28-3. They didn't really have to do much because Gabbard and that offense have not worked out. But the point is, they won 28-3. With the exception of the Purdue game, they've scored less than 29 points in every game, and I don't think that the offense is that good. Louisville offensively is fine, but I think that Notre Dame obviously is the best defense that they're going to face up to this point. Scored 31 against Tech with a block for a touchdown. So that was, once again, not an offensive play. That was a special teams touchdown. So the offense hasn't exactly been amazing. Saw them beat, of course, Austin Peay. They beat Jacksonville State, who were terrible. So Georgia Tech was a decent, I'd say, opponent to face, but they only scored 24 offensive points in that game. I see a low-scoring game here. I think Notre Dame, is going to win, but I can see this game finishing like 23-17. Give me a low-scoring, ugly Notre Dame win. They'll run the ball, drain clock, tell Leonard to not do anything stupid, and they'll try to win the game. Give me the under in this one.
All right. Don't hate that a bit. Next up, we're headed to the SEC as the Arkansas Razorhawks travel to Killeen to take on Texas A&M, or College Station, I guess is actually where it is, right outside of Killeen. A&M, Aggies, 5.5-point favorites. 51.5 is your total in this game, featuring the number 24 ranked Texas A&M Aggies. Skeeter, what do you got in this one?
So Arkansas is an interesting team because they're 3-1. They probably should be 4-0, but they choked away that Oklahoma State game. They played Auburn, who had no quarterback, and they won by 10. But that still counts. You went to Jordan Hare. He got the job done, which is not an easy place to play, no matter how bad Auburn might be this season. However, Taylor Green, I think he's entertaining because he can run. Is he a great thrower? No, not really. 4 touchdowns, 4 picks. A&M hasn't been impressive, though. They beat Florida in the Swamp, which I guess is fine. Barely beat Bowling Green. I still can't believe the spread was that high. I think Bowling Green's underrated. But for this game, do I trust Pittman actually win on the road in College Station? I don't think so. I really don't know. I feel like 6 feels about right to me. I'm going to lean A&M and College Station. I'm probably not going to bet this because I really don't like either team. But I just think A&M might win the turnover battle, and I think that might be enough to get the job done. But this really is threading a needle here. I got A&M by 7. I think it's really close, so the argument might be to take Arkansas, but I think I'm going to go with A&M. They switch quarterbacks, and I actually think Reed's pretty good. So once they got rid of their starter from the Notre Dame game, they've kind of found something a bit offensively. So I think Reed's actually pretty good. I'll go with A&M. I think they're underrated based on how bad their starting quarterback Weigman was against Notre Dame. I think Reed's good. He's a dual threat. He's run pretty well so far. I'll go with A&M. I think they're a bit underrated.
Weigman, I think was an injury replacement. He's
either way. I don't think he's any good.
Well, they're supposedly taking a look at him. Everything I've said is he's a game time decision. I think if he's healthy, he's going to play. And I'm with you. I don't think that's necessarily a good move. Reed is a much better runner. And, as far as this Texas A&M team goes, this is a team that lost to Notre Dame by giving up 198 yards on the ground. That's the most they've allowed in their so far this season, close to 6 yards a carry. I think this is an Aggies team that is going. I think this is an Arkansas team that's going to challenge that. They've got some good runners, as you mentioned. Arkansas passing, not necessarily their strength. And as far as the offensive side, one of the best offensive lines in the country, Scott. They've allowed a grand total of 8 tackles for loss so far in the season. That's fewest in the country. They are very good. Now the Aggies, they weren't absolutely shut down by the Irish, but they just couldn't keep the drives going. I think we might see something similar here. I think we're going to see a lot of action on the ground. I've got the under 51.5 in this one.
By the way, I see Brandon commenting the game's actually in Jerry's World. It's in AT&T Stadium.
Oh, okay. My bad.
It's still in Texas, but just not technically a home game. But Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I don't mind the under 2. Just because I think Reed's better doesn't mean I actually trust them to light it up offensively. So,
Right.
yeah, I see running clock. I still think I'd lean Texas A&M, but I'm not going to bet the side. Both these teams, you could argue, have some pretty glaring issues, and I think it should result in a fun game. But I think A&M is slightly better, so I'll go with A&M. But
All
I
right.
agree with you about the under.
Okay. Cool. Let's talk about number 21, Oklahoma, headed down to Jordan-Hare, as you mentioned earlier, take on the Auburn Tigers. Auburn, Scott, is a still, 1.5-point favorite in this one. And your total on this is 45.5. That has gone up a point in a day. Man, I don't understand how elite programs like Oklahoma and Auburn, I think we can call Auburn close to an elite, certainly a top tier program.
Have no quarterback?
I have no quarterback. What are we doing
What
here?
about Michigan? They won the title, and they don't have a quarterback that can complete a forward pass.
Same thing. Same thing. I don't get it. We used to say it about place kickers. You'd get those, place kickers for Alabama or for Georgia, and they, come out and clank them off for 35 yards out. Now it's quarterbacks. What are we doing? You got NIL money to throw around. You can't find a good quarterback. Arnold's out. They replaced him in the second quarter of their game last week. Gave the ball to Michael Hawkins against Tennessee. Okay, he did all right. Threw for 132 yards and a TD, 18 attempts, rushed for 22. Again, the rest of the way. That Oklahoma team could get nothing going against a Tennessee defense, but they're going to give
Tennessee's really good, though, to be fair. Tennessee's really good.
Absolutely. They're going to give Hawkins the ball again on Saturday. We'll see what happens there. Auburn, they've got 2 quarterbacks, and neither one of them worth a damn. They've got Hank Brown, the freshman. He got pulled after throwing 3 picks. They got Peyton Thorne that came in off the bench to finish the game. He's thrown 5 picks this year as well, Scott. Hugh Freeze is quoted saying he isn't sure who he wants to use. Yeah, no shit. He's waiting for a third option. I think Oklahoma's got the better defense here. Auburn plays some defense. I think Oklahoma's got the better unit. They did a pretty good number on Tennessee there, especially as many possessions as they gave them because they couldn't get anything going offensively. They held Tennessee to just 25. They haven't given up 20 to anybody else. I think this is I think even though it's a low total of 45.5, I'm taking the under here.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma in this one. Said before, Jordan-Hare is a tough place to play. Maybe not so much this year. They lost to California and they lost to Arkansas. So they haven't really been that good at home. Oklahoma, yes, I know that their backup quarterback we kind of need to see a bit more from because Tennessee was kind of just playing in garbage time for a decent portion of the fourth quarter where some of the stats came in for Oklahoma. I do think, though, it's a decent spot to kind of turn a new page and to kind of try to start a new chapter, so to speak, or all the other cliches you could think of. I think Oklahoma is the better team. I think Oklahoma is definitely the more talented team when you compare these two. And if you want to make the argument that both quarterbacks for Auburn aren't good and the quarterback for Oklahoma is a wait and see, I'd rather take the wait and see approach because I know what the other 2 options are for Auburn. They're not very good. But this Oklahoma defense is really good. I think this defense is very solid. Venables, we know, has a defensive background, and the defense has come through. The offense, though, with Arnold was a mess. I'm hoping they can do something in this game to get the job done. But Auburn scored 14 points against Arkansas and against California. This team can score. I can't lay 1.5 when you're scoring less than 15 against those 2 teams. As a dog, this might be an alt spread. I think Oklahoma wins this game by 7+. But until Auburn moves the ball, I'll take Oklahoma. And at least they have a mystery box at quarterback. Maybe that's better than what we're seeing from Auburn, but I like the defense quite a bit. They held Tennessee in check. Tennessee's offense is great. So I'll go with Oklahoma's defense to once again get the job done. The offense does enough. I like the under as well because I don't trust either offense. But give me Oklahoma to win this game 20-13.
Was that the most surprising line of the week for you, seeing Auburn favored here?
Yeah, I was shocked. At least based on what I saw from last week against Arkansas. They beat New Mexico. Congratulations. But I forgot. I was trying to find the exact quote from Hank Brown, which is one of the funniest quotes that he had. I got to remember what it was, but he had a quote basically saying, yeah, I'm ready to show what I got. Here's the quote. So before the game against Arkansas, Hank Brown, the starting quarterback for that game against Auburn, had a quote saying, I love when the competition level's raised. That's when I'm playing my best. I'm excited for SEC play, and I'm excited to dominate Arkansas. Threw 3 picks in the first half and got benched. Probably not how you want to respond after that quote. So my point is, the confidence was there. The execution was lacking, but that quote made me laugh. Auburn's a mess. I'll take Oklahoma. I don't think
Smash.
Oklahoma's that great, but I think they're better than this team.
Yeah, the smash cut to Hank Brown putting on his street clothes in the locker room at halftime.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Well, let's talk about your Badgers as they travel west to play a Big Ten game. Sigh. Against USC. USC 15.5. This has gone up a point, and 50.5 is the number. Scott, I kicked off with my favorite team. Let's kick off with yours.
So Wisconsin's a team that I don't think's very good this season. A big reason for that, they brought in a transfer quarterback. You could argue Van Dyke's not great. He's better than this guy. I'll tell you that much. I mean, I got to say that. I mean, Wisconsin's quarterback situation, not exactly pretty. Now, I am going to point out that Wisconsin had a bye, so they lost to Bama. Not a surprise. Then they ended up having a week off. USC lost a heartbreaker to Michigan, a game they were trailing a bunch in, came back, and then couldn't stop the run game for the final drive, and they ended up giving up the touchdown to lose the game. We know Moss is really good. We know that Wisconsin's quarterback situation is not, but 15.5 feels like a lot to me when USC kind of got manhandled up front for a decent portion of this game. I understand USC's offense picked it up late. I know that Moss was better, and I know that the passing attack and the speed for USC can give this Wisconsin team problems. 15.5 against a team off the bye, I think is asking a lot here. USC, we saw them beat LSU. They once again had a heartbreaker against Michigan. Does that roll over into this game? It might. It might roll over. I think USC wins, but I think Wisconsin covers. 15.5 feels like a lot to me. I'll take Wisconsin off the bye. Please, Fickle, show me something. Keep this game close. I'll go with Wisconsin plus 15.5.
I think your homer's showing there, buddy. Really
it's not even a homer. I roast Wisconsin more than anybody else that's gone to Wisconsin. I just think it's a lot of points for a team that, physicality-wise, I wasn't impressed with last week.
Well, I can't unsee that game they played against the Tide when Alabama absolutely, if you'll excuse the pun, rolled them by 32 points.
I am going to point out, though, Bama is right now a pick-em against Georgia. So Bama might be really good. So just throwing that out there.
I think that's possible. I'm not saying that USC is as good as Bama, but I don't think they're missing it that far. I think 15.5 is a reasonable number for the home team here. I don't care they're off a bye. Give you a week to think about how shitty you are. Great. I'll take USC to cover. Sorry, buddy.
It's fine. Makes no difference to me. I'm not paying any money for booster stuff.
Now we're going to head to Austin as the numero uno ranked Texas Longhorns entertain the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Scott, is Mississippi State the worst Power 4 team in the country?
They need more cowbell.
Got plenty of cowbell, but they ain't got much else, man. This is a team that lost by 24 at home to Toledo. They lost by 17 at home to Florida. Texas, Scott, all they do is win and cover. 4-0 on both on the season. 37.5 points here is the number. 59.5 is the total. I don't give a shit. Texas rolls up the cowbells.
They should. I mean, Mississippi State's not any good. I do want to point out that Oklahoma does have the Red River up next, but they have a bye. So I do like the week off in between to prep. So I don't think they're going to be overlooking this team. You could argue that it's also a tryout for Arch Manning again, because you don't know if Ewers is going to play or not, and they got to figure out a quarterback situation. It's a very good problem to have, unlike Auburn, when both your quarterbacks are really good. But the point is, you might want to see what Arch Manning can do, because he did throw 2 picks against UL Monroe last week. They did win the game comfortably anyway. Yeah, Mississippi State sucks. It's not totally their fault because their head coach, died, which is really tough to deal with, and they had to kind of rebuild stuff from scratch. But this team and the program are not headed in the right direction. Let's put it that way. They're a complete mess. Rodgers was their quarterback. He left for Washington. Now they have basically nothing. Their claim to fame this season was almost coming back into Arizona State when they were getting killed for most of the game. Do you like Shapen? I'm not the biggest Shapen guy. I think he's okay, but nothing, I'd say, worth talking about, especially against this defense. I think Shapen's going to get killed against this defense. So I'm going to go with Texas. I think that they dominate. I think they win this game by about 40. I get the argument. If you want to go for Mississippi State on principle, of not wanting to lay this in conference play.
Yep.
Then again, people did that fading Vandy for years, and you made a lot of money anyway, so that might be a little bit hypocritical. But I am going to lay it here. Texas, you said, keeps covering. I'm not sure the Mississippi State scores more than a touchdown this game. Texas can name the score. I think Texas might get to 50. I like the over in this game. I think Tech's going to try to run it up on them. But give me Texas to win this game, maybe even like 50 to like, I'm trying to get the right score here.
Well, 50 to 10 gets you there.
It does.
But that doesn't give you much breathing room.
It does not, but I think that I'll lean over. I think both teams can score, but I think that Tech will get up early. Then they'll maybe take their foot off the gas. But I think Texas rolls and wins probably by like 42.
Okay.
Give me 52-10 if I had to go for a score.
Okay. That's a needle I'm not willing to thread. I'm not sure we can count on Mississippi State for any points. I'm
hoping for garbage time to help out there. But yeah.
That's and you do have a Texas home game, so they're going to be, deeper down the bench. So you may see some, fourth and fifth string guys come in there eventually. We'll see. Stanford headed across the country again to play number 17 ranked Clemson. Clemson, Scott, still 21.5, 57.5 is the number here. What do you have?
So last week I did love Clemson, but that was solely because NC State had a backup quarterback going who's not any good. Bailey can't really throw. Now you saw Clemson up 28-0 after a quarter, which is impressive. Klubnik's been really good the last two games. They killed App State and they killed NC State. Now both teams might not be that good, but the point is the offense got going, and I think this team's actually in pretty solid form right now. Stanford had a nice win in Syracuse, and they pulled off that win. Now they did play, I believe, on a weekday, so they had an extra day of rest or two or prep for this game. I gotta go with Clemson here. I just think at home with the way the offense is rolling, Daniels I think is fine, but I don't know if I trust him as a passer. Besides one guy, Iomanner, I'm not sold by the other options that Stanford has as a passing attack or just the overall weapons they have. Clemson, if they don't take their foot off the gas against NC State in the fourth quarter, probably win by 40. Like, that game was over in about 5 minutes. I think Clemson at home right now is kind of laying down just the beatings to other teams. I'm going to go with Clemson. Klubnik I might not like, but he's been really, really good the last 2 weeks. I'll back that current form. Give me Clemson.
All right. I'll tell you the part that worries me about this Clemson defense is even though they blew out NC State was able to run the football, man. Their top three backs averaged over 6.5 yards per carry on about 20 carries. This is a Stanford team. That's exactly what they want to do. They want to shorten the game. They want to run the football, and they want to keep Clemson offense off the field. That hook scares me, buddy. I'm not going to lie. I'm going the other way. I'm fading you here. I'm going to take Stanford, and the points could be a 17-point Clemson win. But I think that Stanford does just enough to keep that respectable there.
I do want to point out, though, just for reference, I think you're right, but Stanford's leading rusher right now is their quarterback. The ground game has not been very good for Stanford this season.
Okay, all right. Iowa State headed to Houston, take on the Cougs. Iowa State ranked 18th. 43.5 is the number here. Iowa State favored by 15.5. Houston, Scott, they have a problem, and that problem is they cannot score the football. They put up 33 against Rice. Congratulations. But they've played 3 other games, and they put up just 19 points total, including 7 against UNLV. And now they get a Cyclones team that's given up just 9.7 points per game. Guess what? There's a new defensive sheriff in Iowa, and it ain't the Hawkeyes. I think this one ends 31-7. Clones. I've got the under 43.5 here. I think is the play, but I don't hate taking a shot at threading the needle here, laying the 15.5 and the under. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, historically speaking, this would be such a Campbell game to lose. This would be such a Campbell game to just fall apart in. Like, you know what I'm talking about, but I think this team's good. I mean, they beat Iowa. They exercised the demons. They beat Arkansas State. They actually ran the ball because Arkansas State can't stop anybody. But I think that the Cyclones are good. Now, I do think that Houston's offense is a lost cause. I saw them in week 1 get shut down by UNLV. I think Donovan Smith can't throw. But I do think that Iowa State defensively, as you said, is a solid team. And we saw Iowa the last couple of weeks look pretty good offensively. Scored some points against Minnesota. We saw them score against Troy. I know Troy's Troy, but still, every game for Iowa's gone over this season. They might be an over team now, believe it or not. So Iowa State shut them down. I think that you're looking at a defense that's very solid. Beck, I think, is actually a pretty good quarterback. The ground game's not great. I'm aware of it, but they've been kind of rotating some running backs recently, so maybe they can generate something. But Houston can't score. Like, this team is they just are painful to watch offensively. Maybe a Houston team total under, and you just dare them to get to like 14 points, which I don't really see happening. But I think that Houston is a lost cause. I think that this season is definitely a waste, and they can't score. It's just a spot where I'm going to agree with you about the under. I think Iowa State wins this game, assuming they actually care. Do you want to check the actual potential look-at spot here? Oh, road game. No, sorry, it's a home game against Baylor. Who cares? Yeah, there's no look-at spot there. Give me Iowa State. I think your score is pretty right. They did give up 34 to Cincinnati, though, so maybe Iowa State scores a bit more. Yeah, 31-7, 34-7, good enough for me. I'll go with the under and I'll go with Iowa State. But if Campbell does lose this game, I will laugh really, really hard. Just going to throw that out there.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, let's talk about another team that with quarterback issues as the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes travel to Sparty Land to take on Michigan State. Ohio State favored by 23.5, 48.5 is the number here, Scott. What do you have for this one?
I think Michigan State gets destroyed. I think Michigan State is a team that prides itself on its defense. The quarterback tells people to bet the over, but he doesn't help his team score because the offense isn't very good. Ohio State, you could argue, has not looked that impressive this season. But when you look at the margin of victory, it doesn't matter because they win by about 30-plus every game. It looks ugly early on, but they eventually get going. We saw them beat Marshall. They were down in that game. Then they came back and they won 49-14. Beat Western Michigan 56-0. And they actually trailed against Akron, I think, early in that game. They won 52-6. Now, Michigan State, we saw lose to Boston College. We'll mention that later in the show, but shout out to us for a nice winner in that game. Beat Prairie View, who cares? Beat Maryland barely and beat FAU, only scoring 16 points. I think Ohio State kills this team. Like, if Ohio State scores 34 points, you might be good. There's no guarantee Michigan State even gets to 10. So I think Ohio State in conference play tries to bury this team. First conference home game, they have Iowa on deck. Who cares? No look-at spot there. Ohio State owns this team. They beat this team every year. Kenneth Walker was there. They were like top 10. I think Ohio State was up 49-0 at halftime. Like, it just doesn't matter. Ohio State murders this team every year. Michigan State can't score. They have no quarterback. And Ohio State's defense is very, very good. I think Ohio State wins this game going away. Give me Ohio State by probably 30-plus.
Yep, I'm with you. This Michigan State quarterback, Aiden Charles, not good, Scott. He's thrown 7 picks and just 4 touchdowns. He leads the country in turnover-worthy plays. That's a PFF thing. With 11, that's not a good stat. And so what do they want to do? Well, they want to run the football. Good luck against this Ohio State defense. Ohio State Buckeyes 4th in EPA per rush on defense, and they allow the 7th fewest rushing yards per game at 66.7. Spartans can't run.
They can't throw.
If they try to pass, well, guess what? Ohio State's allowing the fifth least passing yards per game at 113.3. You can't run, you can't pass, you can't cover. I like Ohio State to roll in this one as well. Another unexpected game between top 25 teams is number 19 Illinois travels to Happy Valley to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions. They are ranked 9th. Penn State, 17.5-point favorites, 47.5 is the total here. This is an Illinois team, Scott, that just continues to surprise people. They've been very good for bettors so far. They're 3-1 against the number. The only ATS loss, 0.5 point, as they failed to cover 21.5 against Central Michigan. What they did against Bowling Green scares me. It really does. I'm not sure how good this team is. Illinois picked up a game that went against what I picked. I can't remember what you had in this one, but I liked Nebraska in that game.
I think we liked the under in the game, but it didn't get there.
Yeah, OT is hard for that, but I think we were screwed before that anyway.
We were. Yeah.
Aller's got the size, he's got the strength. He looks like a pro quarterback, but he doesn't have much accuracy, Scott. He can't hit the spots, doesn't have a ton of touch, and this is going to be the best defense they've faced so far. I think it's just too many points, buddy. Again, I think the hook comes into play here. You got it at 17 now. You got it at 18 now. Yeah, I'm gonna take the Fighting Illini. I'm convinced, at least for a week.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Illinois is good. I think that you're looking at what Bielema's done with that program, and he deserves a round of applause for it. And I feel like people don't really think about him that much, but he's a pretty good coach. I think for looking at Penn State, I can't factor in the Kent State game. We could score 20 points against Kent State. That doesn't mean anything. Now, I do think you kind of hit on something. You mentioned the size and the overall, I'd say, measurables for Aller. I heard the same thing about Hackenberg. Just going to throw it out there. So I don't think Aller's that good. I know his stats are good this season. I saw him against Bowling Green, though. Really wasn't that impressive. I think that Altmaier might actually be the better quarterback, and I think people aren't ready to have that conversation. I think Altmaier might actually, if I was doing a Heisman ballot, he'd probably be in my top 4.
Okay.
I think he's really, really good. You're looking at his numbers, 10 touchdowns, no picks. They're undefeated. They beat Nebraska. That's a good win there. Beat Kansas. Good win there. I know Kansas has kind of fallen apart lately, but that's still a pretty decent win. I think it's too many points. Penn State hasn't played anybody. Bowling Green kept it close. They beat West Virginia, who I think we'd agree, despite beating Kansas last week, not exactly a good team. They're fine. They'll make a bowl game. They'll probably be like 6-6, 7-5, but beating Bowling Green barely and beating Kent State means absolutely nothing to me. Shout out to Penn State, by the way, got the over there against Kent by themselves. Thank you for that. But I'll take the points. I think that Penn State wins, but they get bored and they kind of coast. I think Illinois loses by 10. But I think Altmaier's really, really good, and he might be the most underrated quarterback in all of college football. Because you look at the stats, 10 touchdowns, no picks. He's really good, and people don't give him any respect. They don't know who he is. I think he's actually solid. Give me Illinois.
All right, yeah. Let's mark this one. We'll see how your prediction plays out towards the end of the season. We'll see if Altmaier's still in that Heisman.
I didn't say he's going to win. Right now, it's like warding a couple guys, but you look at the stats and them being undefeated. He kind of has to be a finalist right now, doesn't he? At least get invited to New York for a free dinner.
Especially if that team keeps rolling. I agree. Here's the one everybody wants to talk about, Scott. It's going to be the number 2 ranked University of Georgia against the number 4 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide. This game is going to be down there in Birmingham. Georgia currently favored. What do you got here? You got to pick?
The sheet right now is Georgia -1, but I saw a couple pick'ems.
Okay, I had them at 1.5 and 50.5 is the number, and that's come down a point. Quick trivia question for you, Scott. Over the last 4 seasons, Georgia's 47-2. Who have they lost to?
They lost to Bama in the SEC title game.
Yep.
And I'm assuming it was Bama again, but I can't remember where it was Bama again. Where did they lose to Bama?
Yep, that's exactly right. They beat everybody but Bama over the last 4 seasons, and that's not against the trend because this Georgia Bulldogs team is just 1-8 against the Tide since 2007.
Pretty important win though. What does the national title game? I think.
Could be. I think that could be right. Yes.
Yeah.
So here's the deal: DeBoer has kind of taken some of the chains off of Milroe and let him create a little bit more, let him run a little bit more, and he has definitely responded. This is a Bama rushing attack that comes at you from all different directions. They're averaging 238 yards per game. Georgia always has a very good defense, but they are still down Michael Williams. Got an ankle injury. There's a chance he could come back for this game. We'll have to see how that looks. I think if he does, he's going to be limited in snaps. I don't think he's in game shape quite yet. So we'll see how that plays out. I think Michigan showed the way on how to beat this Bama team. They blitzed Milroe 43% of the time, and that was 57% more than any other opponent in any other game, and they ended up with 6 sacks. So we'll see if Georgia is able to duplicate that. But I like a first half play, Scott, because Georgia's got nothing going in the first half so far this season. They've scored just 3 touchdowns in the opening 30 minutes, and 2 of those came against FCS opponents. I think this Dogs offense misses Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, not going to lie. This offense looks nowhere near what they have over the last couple of seasons, and they ranked just 73rd nationally in 20-yard explosive plays, and they were 6th last season. The year before that, they were number 1. I think this offense has taken a definite step backwards. I'm not going to fight that trend. Give me Bama.
Yeah, I think my concern for Bama is if it's a look-ahead spot because they play Vandy next week. No, I'm joking. So we're going to see what happens for this game. But I'm going to go Georgia. I feel like until they actually lose a regular season game, I'm going to have to back Georgia. Like, I understand the argument is Bama has been dominant against this team in the past. That's also Saban against his protege, so to speak. So I
Right.
feel like Nick Saban might have had some inside info. Then again, you could argue he's sharing it with DeBoer anyway, but I'm going to lean Georgia. I prefer the under in this game. I mean, you mentioned that Georgia hasn't gotten much going offensively in the first half, especially in these games. Bama's kind of been the same way. Some slow starts offensively. They kind of lit it up in the second half against South Florida. That game was pretty ugly early.
Mm-hmm.
I like the first half under in this game. I see a feel-out war, very physical between two teams, trying not to make mistakes. I do want to ask you, though, because I saw some betting markets available for the number one pick in the draft for the upcoming year, and Beck's the favorite. Is Beck actually that good? I know the size is there. I don't want to compare it to Aller, but we kind of made the same comments here. He's got the size. He has the arm. There's just something missing with Beck, and I feel like people have noticed it, but they're not willing to fully admit the fact that he's kind of just fine. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, is he Matt Stafford or is he Stetson Bennett? That's really the question. I think he's got all the looks of a king of the combine, but not being able to produce on game day.
I guess Kentucky looked horrible, so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a legitimate question. I'll be curious to see how it plays out because I know everybody was really high on him, and according to the betting markets, they still are. I think we're going to learn a lot more about this after this game, Scott. I really do. I
like the under, though. I see a potential like 24-20 game.
Don't hate it. Really like the first half under. We're going to get that around 25, 26. Yeah, I'm okay with that too. Let's talk about another team in Alabama. It's the South Alabama
Jaguars.
Jaguars, yeah, I have mental block there. They travel down to Baton Rouge, Red Stick, take on the number 14 ranked LSU Tigers. Tigers currently a 20.5 point favorite, and 65.5 is your number here. Who you like?
So South Alabama, I actually think is pretty underrated. I saw them kill App State in App State. I'm not saying that App State's a good team, but they still went in there in a hostile environment. They won comfortably. That was also a weekday game, so they had some extra rest. LSU had a hard time against UCLA for about a half.
Mm-hmm.
They finally got going. I don't think this team defensively is really good. I know Perkins is now out for the year, so they got even worse defensively. I'm on the over. I think I'm taking the Jags. I think it's a decent spot for South Alabama to keep the game close, but Nussmeier's been fine. Lacey I thought would have more stats. I'd say better stats, but he's been fine this season too. The defense is a mess. The Garbers torched them for a half. I don't think Garber's any good, and they lost Perkins for the entire season. So I think that this offense for South Alabama can actually move the ball. Shout out to Fluff, by the way. Best name of any running back. But I am going to go with South Alabama plus the points. I think LSU wins. But I'll tell you what, for a defensive-minded coach in Brian Kelly, I don't know what he does with this team because defense isn't any good. So I don't know what he contributes to this overall roster. I'll take the points.
I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you. This is a South Alabama team that absolutely wants to just run the football.
They drained a ton of clock if they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Their ground game is third nationally in yards per carry, and they do not turn the ball over. Very important in games like this when you're looking at spreads. You don't want to give away 7 points. Lopez throwing the ball well when he has to. 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I think this is it's a balanced offense that leans run, but I think they can do either one of them effectively against LSU. And you're absolutely right. Losing Harold Perkins with an ACL tear last week, absolutely devastating for this defense. I think it's going to take them a while to coalesce again without him around. LSU, Scott, they can't stop the pass to save their life. And not only probably the worst in the SEC, one of the worst in the countries. They also have a lot of injury problems on both sides of the ball. 2 guys already out, 7 are questionable. We'll see what happens there. Chris Hilton is a game time decision. He's yet to play this season, but we'll see how that goes. I'm always skeptical of guys making their first appearance. After the season's already got going, I wonder about their game shape. That's a lot of words to say. I completely agree with you. Give me South Alabama plus the 20.5. And again, we'll be keeping our eye out for a 21 there to see if we can get it. Let's head out west as the number 25 ranked Boise State Broncos take on the Washington State Cougs. the Cougs come to the Smurf turf. Boise State 6.5-point home favorite, 64.5 is the number here. This is a Washington State team, Scott, that likes to run tempo. 17th in the country, 2.47 plays per minute. You like Mateer? You think he's the deal?
I love his rushing yard props. I don't think he could throw, but the guy's fast. I mean,
Okay.
I think he's a dual threat quarterback, but when you look at the overall stats, the completion percentage isn't that great. He's 63 of 166. So that does mean he's completing about 54.3% of the passes. But damn, can this guy run? Against the last couple games, he had 111 and a touchdown against San Jose State. He had 62 and 2 touchdowns against Washington and 197 and a touchdown against Tech. So he's really good at running. Not a great thrower, but he's entertaining to watch.
Well, you know what? I'm going to defend him a little bit because, they are putting up yardage. He is able to hit big plays. They are third in explosiveness across the country as far as the Washington State team goes. And, again, putting up over 275 yards a game, throwing the ball, he's doing something right. It takes him a lot of passes to get there. I agree. His accuracy isn't where it should be. But, this is, we come back to the question about Boise State. They returned a bunch of their defense from last season, and their defense was terrible last season. And, Scott, it looks like they may be even a little worse so far this season, 115th in EPA per play, 117th giving up explosive plays. But the good news is they still have Ashton Jeanty, Scott, maybe the best player in the country. And this is a Broncos offense that ranks 10th in EPA per play. And Ashton Jeanty leads the nation with 199.3 scrimmage yards. Bad news for this Wazoo team. Their defense has given up at least 449 yards in every game. And yes, that includes Portland State, even though they dominated it. I'm going to go with the home team here, Scott, to pull away late. We've got this number at 6.5. That's right where I want it. I think the Broncos win by a touchdown.
Yeah, so I think that I like the over in this game because I don't trust either defense to do a damn thing in this matchup. So I might expect to see a bunch of points in this game. You saw Washington State barely beat San Jose State, pretty underrated San Jose State team, but that was 54-52. Janikowski, I believe, made a 50-something yarder to actually send the game to overtime. I don't know why Washington State's not ranked, and I don't understand the concept behind Boise State, who's 2-1. I get they lost to Oregon by 3, but they're ranked at 2-1. Washington State's 4-0. Why are they not ranked? Am I missing something? They beat Texas Tech, who I think is pretty good. What am I missing? They're 4-0. Why are they not ranked?
I don't know. There's definitely some blind spots in the poll this week.
And they barely beat San Jose State. I get it. They were lucky to win that game, but you're 4-0. You're undefeated. Like, I just don't understand why this team is not ranked, but Boise ranked 25th. Doesn't really check out to me. Anyway, point is, for this one, I like the over. Just give me a bunch of points. I think I had to lean Washington State just because I think 6.5 and what I think should be a shootout, I'm not interested in. The team that gets the ball last might win the game. So I'll go with the over instead. Both teams get the 30 and change. Give me the over. Give me some fun. And I'll take some popcorn with extra butter because this game should be fun to watch. So I'll go with the over as my main play in this one.
All right. We're heading to Utah, Scott. Might want to bring your own liquor, just saying.
Did you say Utes?
Did you say Utes? Arizona taking on the number 10 ranked Utah Utes. Utah currently a 8.5. Yep, 8.5 point favorite. 47.5 is the number. How do you see this game going down?
I think Utah is better than Arizona by a wide margin, but I think Arizona can throw the ball. So the question everyone wants to know, is Rising actually going to play a game for once? Because he was rumored to play the entire week against Oklahoma State.
Right.
He went through warm-ups with the first team, and then last minute, you know what? No, Wilson started. And it's like, what the hell are we doing here? They gave it the old okie doke, and they won the game anyway. So what a hell of a ride for Utah bettors, by the way. You got okie doke the entire week, and you still covered the spread.
Right.
I'm going to go Utah on this one. Any update on Rising? I'm assuming that he was basically a game-time decision last week, and now he'll probably play in this one. He's cleared, not 100%. I don't know, man. Like, I'm getting so pissed off by Rising. Just like, you know what? Maybe I'll play. Maybe I'm not. I don't have time for this. We're trying to bet money on games. I'll go with Utah, though. Defensively, they're great. Arizona got killed by Kansas State. And no offense, that team might not be that great. We'll see, but they got destroyed.
Yep.
Arizona's defense got torched by New Mexico. Besides their quarterback, I don't think they really bring much. McMillan, we know, is incredible. The ground game's fine. That's kind of it. They're pretty one-dimensional. They can't guard anybody. So I'll go with Utah. Give me the Utes at home. They're basically unbeatable at home.
Yep.
They win all these damn home games. Give me Whittingham at home again, minus the 8.5.
Yeah, I'm going to take Rising out of the equation. I'm going to look at this defense that absolutely shut down Baylor last week. They neutralized Oklahoma State's ground game. Arizona, as you mentioned, has a great passing attack, but you know what? It all runs through the ground game. They've got to run the ball and set up the pass. Kansas State stoned them, took that away, and we saw how that worked out as Kansas State absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage. I see more of the same in this one. I agree with you on the Utah Utes minus 8.5.
They are so good at home.
Yeah.
They are so good at home. Man.
They're monsters. All right, now, Scott, the last game on the board as the Oregon Ducks travel down there to L.A. to take on the UCLA Bruins. The number 8 ranked Ducks are a 25.5-point favorite. 55.5 is your total. This is a UCLA offense that redefines bad just about every single week. They average just 15.3 points per game. They have not scored 17 in any of their first 3. Garbers has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns, 4-3. That's never good, completing just 56.7% of his passes. The good news is Bruins throw the ball a lot. They are third in passing rate, but Scott, they're 115th in passing success rate. That is a disconnect right there. The line can't block anybody. Ground game gets nothing going, averaging just 2.7 yards per carry, 60.3 yards rushing per game. That is a dreadful total for a college football team. Dylan Gabriel doing it to it up there for his third team as he leads that Oregon Duck offense, 14th in success rate. And this is a team that can beat you through the air and they can beat you with their feet. I don't see a lot of good here about this UCLA team. Yes, it's a ton of points. Yes, I'm laying it again. Oregon minus 25.5.
So Oregon had a bye last week. I don't know if it matters. They play Michigan State next week, so no look-ahead spot whatsoever. But I was right about Oregon. I did like them minus the points against Oregon State, and they got the job done. They finally figured it out. Now, if Oregon cares, they should win this game by about 30. UCLA, it really might come down to garbage time. Garbers isn't very good. Oregon's defense wasn't very good, though. In the first couple games, Boise torched them for 30-plus points. I think I like the over, believe it or not. I think that UCLA can throw the ball enough to get some big plays, scoring somewhat. Then again, they did score no points in the second half against LSU, and that defense is not very good. I think Oregon wins by 28. It's going to be close, but I think Oregon can really reach 40 and change if they want to. I think they get there, if I had to guess. Give me Oregon to win this game, I'm trying to think of a potential score here, 48-20, maybe. Okay. I think Oregon could score potentially 50 in this game because UCLA defensively looks like they had a decent game, but Nussmeier did have 352 and 3 touchdowns. They didn't really do much defensively. It just felt like LSU kept shooting themselves in the foot. So I think Oregon will look sharp. I like the passing yards over for Gabriel. I think he lights this defense up. Give me Oregon to probably cover, and I don't mind Oregon over. But I think they potentially get to 49 in this game.
All right. Very good. All right, guys. That wraps it up for our top 25 preview. Any good comments here, Scott? Anything we've
I see Sonny mentioning he likes the Cougars for Houston to go under their team total against Iowa State. I mean, they scored no points against Cincinnati, so you're gonna get no objection from me. Same thing with David. He likes the under in the Iowa State game in general. Besides that, David, JC, back. Nice to see you guys.
That was always
and Brandon, of course. Nice to see you guys.
Excellent. All right. Well, Scott, we have reached that point. People often ask us, since we do a show, and apparently we know something about college football, if you guys had to bet at all, if you had to take everything you had and put it on one game this week, what would it be? And while we don't advise doing that ever, we are happy to give you our favorite play of the week in a segment that, Scott, we have colloquially named Bet the Farm.
Yeah, by the way, I just have to get the hat on, so it's good. Handling a lot at the same time.
There it is. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. We our producer that produced our show the first couple of weeks said, "All right, I set it all up for you guys. You're all good." Scott, that hat, something about your camera angle and that looks ridiculous.
Yeah, it's kind of bent. It's like half bent the wrong way. Whatever. It's a hat. How you doing, ma'am? Nice to see you.
Afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
All right, Skeeter. Let's review. How'd we do last week?
So we had a nice winner. We had Boston College and Michigan State under, and that got a little bit sweaty at the end, but Boston College's defense held, and the game ended up going under.
Yep,
So.
And we had a discussion about that. You talked me out of Boston College. That ended up being a good move as the under was the play. So, well, so much for the big reveal.
I didn't say which side we have.
That's true. That's true. Let's talk about this Navy team. A 3.5-point favorites over who is it? The Dragons, apparently. No.
They are
UAB.
the Dragons, I believe. It's UAB. Yeah.
57.5 is
what
the
gave
number.
it away? Was it the massive dragon on the helmet over there that they were the Dragons?
So, whatever the hell that is. What are they?
I believe that's a Komodo dragon. I want to say it's
they're
close
the
to
UAB. What?
They're the Blazers.
Okay. Well, I guess putting a four-wheel drive truck on your helmet would be a little bad. So it's a dragon.
There are no trails, so they're just blazing. But there's no trails to blaze.
Oh, okay. So. I like that. Scott, who do we like here?
So we said Navy's favored by 3.5, and if you actually haven't been paying attention, besides Air Force tossing them aside, I'd say the triple option team's done pretty well so far this season. We saw Army dominate against Temple on a Thursday night. We are going to back that trend. We are going to go with the triple option team once again. We're going to go with the midshipmen to get the job done here, minus the 3.5. Couple reasons why. Main reason, we saw Navy look really good offensively against Memphis in the last game. They scored 50-plus points in that game. Nice job by them as they ended up winning outright. Game culminated on a pick 6 at the end. Navy offensively, though, has been really, really good. Looking at their actual quarterback with Horvath, Navy offensive numbers so far this season. They were able to torch Temple, scored at least 56 points they scored at least 38 points in every game. Scored 49 against Bucknell, 38 against Temple, and they scored 56 against Memphis. One thing we know they love to do, they love to run the ball. UAB's run defense, bottom 10 in the country. Probably not a good combo for the Blazers here. I see that Navy should be able to run the ball down their throats. Maybe 400-plus rushing yards, but Horvath has been really good with this offense, and I do think that Navy just has too much, I'd say, running ability for this UAB run defense to handle. I think Dilfer's going to need some Pepto-Bismol at halftime trying to stop this team. So give me the midshipmen minus the 3.5.
Stealing money here. We are stealing money in this one. I like this. This is a coldly efficient Navy offense. And in spite of the fact they gave up 44 to Memphis, Scott, I like the way they play defense. I think.
But Hennigan's good too. So that's not a slight. Hennigan's probably the best quarterback in the conference.
No, and the only reason Memphis scored that many points is because Navy scored so quickly. They had more possessions than they normally would have. I don't think that they're going to have that problem against UAB. Long sustained drives put this one out of reach early. Bet the farm, guys. It's the Navy midshipmen minus 3.5.
I mean, it's a simple breakdown. If you're going to stop Navy, you kind of have to stop the run.
Yep.
And this team, UAB, damn, they can't stop the run.
Nope, not a bit. Not a bit. Very, very bad matchup for the UAB Blazers. So that's it for this week, guys. As always, we thank you very much for tuning in. All the people that tuned in live. We thank everybody that's going to be watching this today and tonight and a little early tomorrow before the games go off. So thanks very much for stopping by. Don't forget to drop us a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that stuff. Scott, any final words? Oh, don't forget to use the promo code. That's right, promo code. 20% off any premium product over there at Whiners and Whiners. Just use the code SCOTT2. You can't forget that. And that'll get you 20% off any and all premium products at Whiners and Whiners. Final thoughts, my friend?
Should be a fun week. Looking forward to being back here next week. And, of course, you still have the Survivor Show, right?
What's that?
Do you still have the Survivor Show?
We'll do the Survivor Show. I'm out.
Check that out. There's a Survivor Show. Check that out midweek.
We've gone down from 51 players, Scott, to 5 in 3 weeks.
Nice.
4 weeks,
I already lost. Bengals killed me, so it is what it is.
Yeah, I lost with the Raiders last week. Good times.
Okay.
So, all right, you guys have a terrific week. Good luck on all of your plays. I'm Scott Steehn. He's Scott Reichel. We'll be back next week, same bat time, same bat channel, as we take you guys back to school. Take care, everybody.